An interesting pattern of what appears to be a cover-up of the Orion Nebula seems to appear in various places in history. For example, reference to the Mayan creation myth can be found in their sacred Bible called the Popol Vuh, in which they describe the center of the cosmic hearth, the area of creation, and the world creation. This sacred Bible was found in the 16th century in Guatemala, hidden in a Catholic church altar. It is interesting to note that the Mayans were already aware of the Orion Nebula at this time, even before the church in Europe began summoning astronomers and using telescopes to survey that area of the sky. The telescopic history of the Orion Nebula and the M43 region is quite an interesting story and contains one of the greatest conundrums in astronomy, worthy of a decent detective mystery. First realized by Alexander von Humboldt, none of the observers before Galileo had noted the particularly bright nebulosity, although to the naked eye today it is obviously bright and definitely not stellar. Why this was not observed has yet to be properly explained, meaning either that the Orion Nebula was simply not noted, or the seemingly highly unlikely possibility that the nebula was not as bright in the time of Galileo. More strange is that nobody else prior to him has written down the visibility of this particularly famous grand nebula of the entire sky. Amazingly, Galileo never mentions it, even though it was one of the first areas for his telescopic sweeps, extensively observing the constellation of Orion in some detail in December 1610. He merely noted an increase in the number of stars in the region. Neither Ptolemy's Almagest nor Al-Sufi's Book of Fixed Stars noted this nebula, even though they both listed patches of nebulosity elsewhere in the night sky. The first discovery of the diffuse nebulous nature of the Orion Nebula is generally credited to French astronomer Nicolas Claude Fabre de Perret in 1610, when he made a record of observing it with a refracting telescope purchased by his patron Guillaume Duver. According to Wikipedia, the first published observation of the nebula was a somewhat ambiguous account by Jesuit mathematician and astronomer Cysatus of Lucerne in a book about a bright comet in 1617. It is important to note that the first photographs ever taken of the Orion Nebula were taken in the 1880s. The first photograph taken in 1880 was by Henry Draper. This particular photograph does not show any real detail at all, and only accounts for the nebulosity of that area. The second photograph was taken by Andrew Ansley in 1883 to show that a long exposure could record new stars and a nebula invisible to the human eye. This second photograph, although showing more detail, only accounts for the general outline of the nebula, and it is worthy to note that no detail can be seen with inside the nebulosity of this area. On August 18, 2006, NASA released its picture of the Orion Nebula taken by the Spitzer telescope. NASA mentions that although the nebula is visible to the unaided eye, although not apparently the case as history tells us, that this stunning infrared view from the Spitzer Space Telescope penetrates the turbulent cosmic gas and dust clouds to explore the region in unprecedented detail. As Jesus said in the Gospel of Thomas, "Know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you, for there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed." There is an overwhelming amount of evidence that the Jesuits knew about the Orion Nebula and its ancient importance as we explore the Church of the Jesu. The Church of the Jesu is the Mother's Church of the Society of Jesus, a Roman Catholic religious order also known as the Jesuits. The Church of the Jesu is located in the Piazza del Gesù in Rome. The construction of the church was finished approximately in 1584. Following the construction of the church, a highly detailed mural, interestingly named Triumph of the Name of Jesus, was completed by Giovanni Battista Galli on the ceiling of the church in roughly 1660. This mural uses art to depict details only visible using Spitzer infrared technology, noting the specific cloud formations that always appear in the same places each time, from the left cloud formation to the right cloud formation, to the center bright spot, to the arch, and finally to the top of the nebula. one can see they are clearly emulating the detail of the Orion Nebula. Question: how did the Church know in 1660 a level of detail only available by infrared technology that exists in the Orion Nebula? This takes us to our next example. The chair of St. Peter is a relic conserved in St. Peter's Basilica, enclosed in a gilt bronze casing that was designed by Gian Lorenzo Bernini and executed in 1647 to 1643. The chair of a bishop is a cathedra. The cathedra in St. Peter's Basilica was once used by the popes. It was there often thought to have been used by St. Peter himself, but was in fact a gift from Charles the Bald to the Pope in 875. When looking at the chair of St. Peter, please note that on either side of the chair exists keys, and above those keys exists another depiction of the Orion Nebula using the same knowledge of the level of detail only exposed with infrared technology. If you recall from the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus also said, "The Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and have hidden them. They have not entered, nor have they allowed those who want to enter to do so." Above this chair, we notice the same cloud formations, the same center bright spot, and the same arch. This area also exhibits what appears to be sun rays protruding through the clouds that the angels or stars are sitting on. Question: why are these angels always circling the center bright spot in both depictions of the Orion Nebula? This takes us to our final example. The St. Charles Church is a church situated on the south side of Karlsplatz, Vienna, Austria. Its construction was completed in 1737 by Joseph Emanuel Fischer von Erlach. The high altar in the St. Charles Church also depicts the same level of detail as found in the Church of the Jesuit, with slightly varied art. Once again, it displays the left and right cloud formations, the center bright spot, and the arch, emulating the details of the Orion Nebula with infrared technology. In 3 major cathedrals in Europe, it is quite obvious that we are seeing depictions of the Orion Nebula. It's interesting to note that in the last 2, we see St. Peter holding the keys to heaven, or holding the keys to enlightenment. Ellen G. White was a Seventh-day Adventist that lived from 1827 to 1915. The Seventh-day Adventists believed that Mrs. White was more than a gifted writer. They believed she was appointed by God as a special messenger to draw the world's attention to the Holy Scriptures and help prepare people for Christ's second advent. From the time she was 17 years old until the time she died 70 years later, she had approximately 2,000 visions and dreams. These visions varied in length from less than a minute to nearly 4 hours. In one of Ellen G. White's visions, she began a description of the opening heavens with its glory, calling it an opening into a region more enlightened. Elder Bates said that her description far surpassed any account of the opening heavens he had ever read from any author. Apparently Mrs. White had subscribed to Bates' theory that the open space in Orion was a special heavenly place. Thus she put her prophetic stamp of approval on his conjectures about Orion. A couple of years later, on December 16, 1848, Mrs. White took the Orion theory one step further. She had another vision in which she saw the functioning of the Orion Stargate. She said, "Dark, heavy clouds came up and clashed against each other. The atmosphere parted and rolled back. Then we could look up through the open space in Orion, whence came the voice of God. The holy city will come down through that open space."
I was in Idaho last year, and it was a Mexican doctor that came to see me, a lady. And she said, "I have a practice down in Mexico. My partner was approached by a Catholic and said, the bishop is dying of cancer, but he knows you Adventists have a special health message. Would you be willing to treat him?" The doctor bishops started coming. He put them on a special plan, prayed with them, and pretty soon the cancer started to disappear. And eventually it totally disappeared. But now it's time for the doctor to knock on the house of the bishop. Hello, Brother Bishop, I am here to give you a Bible study. Can I come in? The bishop said, please do. You're welcome. They talked for a while. He said, okay, I'd like to discuss with you the spirit of prophecy and how it gave us the health message. Could I do that? The bishop said, yes. But before you do, could I show you something? Come with me to my library. So they went to the library. And on the library, all of the published writings of Ellen G. White. The doctor was stunned. Brother Bishop, how in the world do you have all these books? He said, and I've read every one of them too. You have. And what do you think about them? He said, I'm a Jesuit. It is my job to read everything. And I want you to know that we Jesuits believe that Ellen G. White is the only true prophet of any church today. And we believe everything she has written. And I will tell you another thing. That is why we don't want Seventh-day Adventists to believe anything that she writes. Because if they do, they will know everything we're doing and everything we're planning to do.
In part 3, we will take a look at what these churches are actually pointing to in this bright spot. Why do we see the Yahweh symbol in the St. Charles Church? Why do we see the dove in the Cathedra Petri? And why do we see the IHS symbol in the Church of the Jesu? Stay tuned, and we'll explore all of this and more next.